Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
She may have returned, but no longer is she timeless. Toni Storm has returned to AEW for the first time since All In Wembley Stadium. I am Tempest, this is Sat, and we're here to do our WrestleTalk review of AEW Winter is Coming 2024. Sat, talk to the people.
Happy Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, is a happy special holiday Saturday or happy special holiday AEW Dynamite, House of the Black Mask. Of course, before we begin,
it is Christmas. It's a holiday. Look at all of the festive things we've got going on. It looks like there's a border on the bottom of the video, but it's just the streamers and everything.
Yeah.
So,
yes, sir.
we are going to get into our here review and indeed talk about the return of Toni Storm, because this has been something that once the main event was positioned as the main event on this show, I went, all right, there's probably something happening here, because Winter is Coming has long been one of AEW's big shows of the year, Dynamite-wise. It's like their final big Dynamite of the year. We have had Sting debut on this show. We've had Kenny Omega winning the title. We've got the Wangman versus Bryan Danielson in an hour-long amazing match. This is a show where big stuff tends to happen. And so we hadn't really had any of those type things to this point on the show, but Mina Shirakawa challenging Mariah May for the AEW Women's title, put in the main event of this show, probably boded well for a big thing happening at the end. And so it did. But we'll get into the main event first. We'll take you through this match because they went through and they were, angry former partners at each other. They were kind of shoving and pushing each other and getting in each other's faces. And then Mina Shirakawa worked over Mariah May's leg during the early goings. She was hitting chop blocks. She put her in the figure four, and then they rolled off the apron and landed on the floor in a heap, and Mariah really sold her leg there. I thought that was a really cool little creative spot. Good, a good variation on the knee wrench spot that you see a lot more often these days. She wrapped her, I keep saying she, it's the pronoun game that they always talk about in commentary. You got to name the people. They're nouns. Mariah May had her leg wrapped around the post by Mina Shirakawa and put into another figure four, the old classic figure four around the post spot. Shout out to Bret Hart and all the other people that have also done that move. And that was sort of the story of the match. Mina working over Mariah May. Eventually, Mariah May was able to, come back from that. And they traded finishers and both kicked out. Like, you got to a bit more of an elevated level in this match with those exaggerated kickouts at the end. Helped put this match over the top from just being what would otherwise be a pretty solid TV title match. And yeah, Mina hit her glamorous driver. Mariah kicked out. Mariah hit the Mayday. Mina kicked out. And then Mariah hit the Storm Zero on Mina to get the win. Throughout this match, Thunder Rosa was sat at ringside, and she had a sign that just said, "Mariah is not my champ." And I was like, that's kind of cute. Sure, whatever. And then Toni Storm's 80s music hits. The wild child of the 80s, Toni Storm, makes her return, comes out, stands on the stage, and immediately Thunder Rosa holds up a sign that just says WTF. Now, why would she know to make that? Maybe she made it just in case. I thought that was silly. But that thing aside, am I breaking the suspension of disbelief for you?
You know what? I didn't even think of that. I was like, she's got signs ready for everything.
She's got 20 signs back there for all the possible situations.
Listen, she's now like Lodi or Sign Guy Dudley. And then, to be honest, her being out there, it was kind of like a nice Trojan horse. Because you're thinking, she's out there, is an in-event match. They might get into a brawl, if anything.
This could be the final.
It was a good
angle of the
subterfuge.
show.
It was.
Yes, absolutely. But that was largely the end of the show, because Toni comes out, gets a big pop. Everyone's really happy to see Toni Storm back. And she comes out, again, decked out in her 80s gear and poses. She's got kind of a wild look in her eye. Not quite the timeless deal, but I've seen some people say that Toni Storm is going through a mental breakdown as a character and is reverting back to this, but there's still going to be a madness about her because of losing the title and losing Mariah May and all of these different things. And that could very well be the case. We might just see a bit more of a back to basics approach from Toni Storm, which I think honestly would be very refreshing after seeing Timeless Toni Storm for a year. Because don't get me wrong, I think the Timeless Toni Storm gimmick worked tremendously well, and I think it revitalized the women's division and got it to a place that it had never been before. So, big points to that. But that being said, I think Toni Storm as just a wrestler as well is great, is fantastic. I really enjoyed her AEW title reign the first time, even if it was just consistent matches. Granted, I am very much hoping that we have evolved past that and can weave in a nice story here with Mariah May, and I would be shocked if they didn't. But I don't look at the reversion back to the regular Toni Storm as being a downgrade. I see it as being, hopefully for at least the time being, a big plus.
So I am a huge fan of Timeless Toni Storm. I'm a huge fan of Rocker Toni Storm. I'm a huge fan of Toni Storm in all incarnations. I'm a fan of Toni Storm overall. Timeless did a lot for her career and for the whole women's division. But now that she's gone back to basics, the workhorse version of Toni Storm, the one of no frills, just go in there and wrestle. It is interesting because I think I actually come back Timeless, it would have continued the soap opera aspect of the storyline. And I feel like in order to get past it and just to make it more of a gritty war, she had to go back to basics. Like it's kind of like you have to go to the origin. You have to go back to who you are. What makes you who you are? What makes you tick? But there's also many questions like, you know, where's Luther and all this? Is Luther going to be a punk rocker too? Or is Luther...
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Comes out as like a metalhead in the crowd. She can crowd surf her way on a crowd of one.
Yeah, and then people say they want a Three Faces of Foley kind of thing where Rocker Toni Storm does not acknowledge Timeless Toni Storm as being her. Like they're just two separate entities. Her brain is broken, it's fragmented, as they say. So this is kind of like a DID situation, dissociated disorder, where she is now, because what happened, losing the title broke her, like you said, mentally, and she's now Rocker Toni Storm, and she's going to be no frills, no jokes, no bosoms, no the shoe, all that kind of stuff might even disgust her. That would be funny if they went that route. But anyway, it's opened up the door, and the fact that this was a cliffhanger, women's division having a cliffhanger, and lo and behold, it's Mariah May and Toni Storm being a cliffhanger again. I'm excited to see what comes. But, you know, when is the show that's happening in Australia? Is that January?
I think it's February.
Okay. All right, not to poo-poo the situation. We'll talk about it later. But I first of all enjoy the match. Mina Shirakawa is a hooper.
Good match.
She's a hooper. You know, she may do things like, you know, shaking her memories and stuff like that, but she can go in the ring. And it also shows that she should be in AEW full time. I don't know her contract situation with Stardom is, but she should be there. And now we got Thunder Rosa, who was there. And I don't know the backstory because, you know, I've missed some of the show, something about that she wants to be women's champion. As she should, because I feel like her and Shida, they should be treated the way Britt Baker is, as in like they're like the elder stateswomen of the women's division. She doesn't get as much credit as she deserves as being one of the women that pioneered AEW's women's division, to the point that Tony Khan bought out her contract with NWA because she was that vital in helping the women's division. Anyway, I want to see Thunder Rosa first against Mariah May to be like a filler feud.
That could be the World's End match.
Bingo. Just do that first, because I can see Mariah May saying you don't deserve a title opportunity, Tony. You lost. You need to, you know, build up some wins, which makes sense. And another thing as well I noticed is that Mariah May, since she became women's champion, Storm Zero has been her go-to. The Mayday is not that strong, and it's kind of like she had to go to her mentor's finisher in order to win. It's kind of show you that Toni Storm still influences her.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of fun that can be played with there, particularly when we get into the eventual Toni Storm Mariah May rematch. You know, maybe, you know, again, you look at how the Wembley match went, you know, Storm Zero on the steps and all this, like that played a very big role in all of this. So I think we will very much see that again there. I liked a lot of what you had said about the character work of Toni Storm and, you know, the Three Faces of Foley thing. I think that's kind of a fun idea. I like the idea of Thunder Rosa being kind of like the filler feud, because we don't have that long until World's End now to hotshot a rematch between Mariah and Toni. And I want that to be sort of, again, the big match that we're building to. So if that is a bit delayed and you do that in Australia, I think that'll be a very good thing. In the meantime, though, we have harped on AEW for their women's division ever since All In. And I will continue to do so, you know, if and when appropriate. I would rather it didn't take Toni Storm to come back from her 3 or 4 month layoff in order to reignite things. But if that is what it takes, we're here now. And if it's going to get better, tonight it was better. Main event spot, big angle, big reactions. That's all very good. Let's keep that going. And the next time one of these women needs to take some time off, maybe we don't revert back to all the horrible things we were booking beforehand. Otherwise, let us know what you thought about the return of 80s rocker Toni Storm at Winter is Coming. Let us know in the comments down below, and we will get into the rest of our review here, because we started with a tag team match, and it was Jon Moxley and Pac versus Orange Cassidy and Jay White. Now, I thought, like, all of this, if you actually take a step back, is like, this is a very fun combination, very silly and wacky in my mind, because, you know, Jay White in my head is still a heel.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I know he is positioned as a babyface and everything, but I've looked at him long enough. I was like, your alignment is not good. You know, you may be popular and you're doing things kind of the right way right now, but you're a slimy little scumbag. I know that about you.
Yes.
I watched all those years. I saw what you did to Chaos and Bullet Club and all that. So seeing him team with Orange Cassidy, I was like, this is strange. My brain is like having to recode itself as I'm watching it. And the same thing is kind of said for me when I'm watching Jon Moxley and Pac. Like, I know that Pac has been integrated into this group. You know, he is a Death Rider. He became a member of the Blackpool Combat Club there at the end, apropos of very little, because, you know, they had their alliance two blood and guts matches ago, and then they immediately turned on each other, and then it led to the Pac Claudio match at Death Before Dishonor for the ROH title, which I'm sure all of you remember. You know, so it's like my mind still just gets cast back because I'm cursed with a memory that never fades of like Jon Moxley and Pac being one of the first Dynamite main events. It was like week 3 or 4 or something like that. You know, so to me, they're still like opposite sides. You know, I know they have teamed before, but this was one where I was like, I'm still getting used to the idea that you two are stablemates.
Yeah, me too. I love how you say it. I'm cursed with memory. I remember everything. You do, because there's certain things you mentioned. I was like, that was a thing. It felt like a WCW Lethal Lottery match. Because
It did a little bit, you know?
Yeah, because Moxley is you associate, you're a babyface. Pac, you are a tweener. Oku, he's always been a tweener. Pac can't decide what he wants to be sometimes. He's a tweener. But no, yes, Pac is always a piece of crap. Orange Cassidy is a perennial babyface. And Jay White, yeah, even the way he screams heel. As someone would say, he's a heel. He's a heel, motherfucker. He's a heel. I dropped my F-bomb. I wasn't planning to do that. But yeah, as you were saying about the match.
Yeah, no, like, Jay White did a lot in this match where I can see that he is like doing a lot more call and response stuff with the crowd and kind of easing into the babyface thing a little bit more. So that, I'm sure, like, it will help. Hopefully it only drives up his popularity as we continue onward. But there were a lot of fun bits in this match. They immediately started off like, bam, they hit dives, Orange Cassidy, and they wiped out the Death Riders, and then he dove onto Pac. I love seeing Orange Cassidy and Pac on opposite sides of the ring in general. They're like one of those destined to do it forever duos that I really, really enjoy. And yeah, they kind of paired off in the early goings and then eventually got back in the ring and the bell rang. And, you know, babyfaces had their shine, and then they got the heat on them. One of the things that I really liked, a small detail that didn't really play into things overall, but I loved the execution of it because it's so simple but effective, where Orange Cassidy at one point blind tagged in, and Jay White didn't make a huge deal out of it, but he kind of just looked at him as he went past like, I got this, you know, just like... He looked frustrated. He looked exasperated. And then immediately afterwards, Orange goes to hit Jon Moxley, and Pac hits a blind tag, jumps off the apron, allows Orange to start his next move targeting Jon Moxley, and Pac immediately runs in, breaks it up. And I was just like, the synergy between the Death Riders versus the not quite on the same page, forced to get along for the moment babyface team, I think played very well. And ultimately, I guess it did factor into the post-match deal because, as we'll get to, things devolved. But they went back and forth a lot in this match. They beat down Jay White for a significant portion, and then Orange Cassidy got his hot tag, ran wild. He hit a bunch of DDTs. I think Pac sells better than anybody in the world. I think he's my favorite bumper / seller in wrestling, and there are a lot of great ones. But every time I see Pac like set up to take a DDT, I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be fun," and all that. So they all get DDT'd. The Death Riders get wiped out. Wheeler Yuta gets hit with an orange punch, and then Jon Moxley gets hit with an orange punch. And it looks like Orange is gonna set up and possibly get the win over Moxley, but Hangman Page runs in for the DQ, beats down Moxley, and Orange kind of like goes, "Man, I had him." Goes over to try to like pull Hangman off, gets shoved back. They end up just going to blows. They're fighting each other. Boom, boom, boom. Jay White comes back into the mix, and they all start hitting like big moves on each other. Jay hits the Blade Runner on both of them after Orange had hit the orange punch on Hangman, and like it devolves. And immediately once it's devolved and all of the baby faces are kind of laying, then the Death Riders all come in, jump them, beat them down, and then leave. So I thought this was a fine enough tag match, fun enough opening match. I appreciate that they just cold open with a match. That always just gets a plus for me. I like that style of TV wrestling. I thought that this match, while fine, and I guess you would have to get to this point with all of this, I found it just more exciting last week when the three semi-united baby faces were kind of like, you know, uneasy alliance. Like seeing Jay White and Hangman Page both hit moves and then stand there like, okay, I hate you, but enemy of my enemy type stuff. I'll allow it for this week. That to me felt much more productive and exciting and everything. It felt like a shot of life was injected back into the main event story, which had been absent for a while otherwise. And then this week, it was just a bit more of the same of like, you know, Death Rider beatdown afterwards. I get that you want, if you're going to do this 4-way, which they immediately then announced, you do need the challengers all to hate each other as well and want to fight each other. But I don't know. I just found last week to be a more entertaining segment than this week's. Not to say it was bad, but just a little bit less in my mind.
I'm going to go for what you said. It's always great when AEW Dynamite starts with a match, not a promo. We're going to hit it hard, kick it off great. Death Riders, here's my issue with the storyline. They started off with, a lot of people joke about the soul of AEW, and some people don't really care about the soul of AEW, the company being the main character, whatever. Anyway, it is what it is. There's some criticism online.
I would agree with that. I don't particularly care about the soul of AEW at this juncture.
And reasons why? What's the, just give me still some
AEW is not a character, you know? And like, AEW now is not what AEW was 5 years ago. And maybe that's part of the story, but the way that they have been telling these stories where it's like, okay, even if these people do achieve things, it doesn't matter. We've not seen Private Party do anything since they won the tag titles. And that was supposed to be, at least early on, one of those big, like, okay, here is the original team stepping up and being one of those, like, I will grab the brass ring and do that. And they did that. And I don't think they've had a match on TV since. They've not been a focus of TV at all. So there's maybe been focus on other bits of it, but the idea that like, okay, if one of these young up and coming babyface teams or groups or Daniel Garcia or whatever, if they do break through that glass ceiling, that needs to be significant. And through 5-6 weeks of Private Party, for instance, it just hasn't been. So the idea that that is what the Death Riders are striving for, to force change, to force people to step up, there hasn't been enough follow through on the ones that have for me to get invested in the storyline week to week.
Okay, so my issue with the Death Riders is they went from being like almost omnipresent on the show, like they're the dark cloud hanging over AEW, to them being like a segment in the early portions of the show, and they have no vested outcome or interest or what's going. They should be involved more on what's going on in the show. Each storyline, or it should be. I don't have to. kind of like, I guess, because I grew up on the NWO, and not just NWO, Four Horsemen. You know, my version of Four Horsemen is the 90s version, but I did my research, and I know I've got DVDs, a video. I've seen what the original incarnation was. Is like no one was safe, and it doesn't feel like that anymore. It feels like it's the Big Hill group now. Like they got less power than before. It felt powerful. It felt like no one can really stop them. And like you said, you go with the babyface banding together because you need a strong babyface side. And then you want the heels to continue to win because we've been taught this with bloodline stuff because that's the recent one. Judgment Day to a degree, I roll, but you need strong babyface characters to face them along the way. And if they got great characters, because Hangman Page, at the moment, he's going through the crisis of faith and he's all over the place, which is actually added to the storyline where him being a ticking time bomb is now ruining it for everyone else. Hence why they start fighting each other. The Uneasy Alliance thing would have been cool because it would have changed things up for a bit because it has been the last few months, Death Rider gets, won over all these baby faces. It'd be great to know what they do next. How did they escalate it? Because the violence level as well, I think, is kind of gone down a bit.
Well, they started with a murder.
Bingo. And then it started with backstage attacks. They started with, using cars. So I think in my mind, it's like you guys have been elevating the stakes, poisoning people, drinking Drano, wherever it is, like a homicide and it's Colt Cabana. I don't know. It would be great if they did more escalated because right now, nothing that differentiate them right now from like the Elite. Or I'm going to say Undisputed Kingdom because they didn't even get that far. They did a couple of promos and they died. I want them to there's a lack of urgency. There was something in the beginning. And then now people are even saying that, the Danielson and Moxley match, it didn't matter to anything because right now when you're watching TV, what have we got? What exactly has changed, right now? Yeah. So I want more. They got the right cast of characters, but I think the issue is the convolution of like Christian's got this contract and you're like, Christian, that would have been great back when you were TNT champion. I feel like that has muddled. There's a lot of muddied things up. It's like I think it's like when you got a broth. Too much ingredients has been shaken into it, and you're stirring it, and you start looking at it. It's like I ain't gonna eat that now. It's like it looks like a warm, ploppy concoction because it's went from being something great, but it's like I hope they know where they're going with this because right now it's again beginning of the show, nothing at the end. He does a promo which I know we're going to talk about, but it's like I need more because even if promo's version on Bray Wyatt kind of
Well, this is it though. Like when you add too many different things into the pot in Legend of Zelda and Breath of the Wild, and it comes out with just like. Oh, horrible I forget what it's called. It's not a suspicious stew because that's Minecraft. But all these things are good individually, but if you put too many of them into the pot at once, it just kind of turns into blah. Yeah. And that to me, Christian is a big example of it where I don't know why we have a Money in the Bank contract in AEW right now. I think it is making this way too complicated. Yeah. In all of this. Because I agree. I had said that my interpretation of the Death Rider story was that Jon Moxley was going to kill Bryan Danielson to unite the young talent against one common enemy, because being the guy who dethrones Bryan Danielson isn't enough of a motivator to get them to step up, but fighting the guy who killed Bryan Danielson would be, and I was like, you know what? That's a great little story. I really like that. But the lack of urgency from anybody to avenge Bryan Danielson at this stage has led to this just being like, okay, we just have another heel champion, and now it's a chase. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's a not particularly interesting heel champion chase now.
Weirdly enough.
You look at the heel champions that you have had in AEW, and the list is like, Jericho first, who was in the midst of maybe his best run ever. And on grand scheme of things, wasn't that long of a run anyway. But people were very had like two main challengers, and that was it. Good stuff. Then you had Kenny Omega, Kenny Omega was in GOAT status, and you were waiting for the Hangman Page thing, and that was the story of the summer. That's pretty good as well. You got MJF, who goes through his deal and halfway through becomes a babyface, so that's not too bad. Maybe we could talk about that another time. But the heel portion of MJF's title reign was pretty good. Samoa Joe's was short.
But yes.
And then Swerve is a bit of a tweener, only kind of got there at the end with the Danielson match, but that's it. There was urgency in all these things. You had people that you really wanted to see win those titles. I don't think we are close to the end of this Moxley title reign unless they pivot. And I'm not... Maybe it has something to do with Darby Allen losing a lot of matches lately. Like, he's not heated up to the point where I was like, you gotta put a belt on him next month. Don't wait. I want to see this right now. There's none of that. It just feels like we're spinning our tires to get through the end of the year. And maybe once we get through World's End, which is a throwaway pay-per-view, it seems at this point, you're not getting the big things on World's End. Maybe then the story can kind of get interesting again. But you do need to inject the urgency back into it. It feels like nobody is looking at it like, we need to get this belt off of him now. Every day he has it, it gets worse. It feels like it gets just more meh, fine, whatever. How bad are they actually, kind of by the day?
And also remind me, where's Daniel Garcia in the storyline?
He's competing in the C2. He's busy. He got his belt.
It's kind of weird. I think there's the mistake as well. I think you've got this storyline going on. Yeah, the C2 is great. I mean, everyone's been waiting for it since the first one. But the issue with the C2 is some of the participant. Darby Allen should have been in there. Darby Allen shouldn't be in there, and Daniel Garcia shouldn't be in there either, because he got the title. He did great last year, it's coming out party. He got some eyes. It led to the push he got right now, but they're involved in a bigger storyline, and I feel like Darby Allen has to lose some matches. He's not going to win the C2 probably, So why is he in there?
Yeah.
Well, it does add more to, here's the loser who lost his title shot. Here's the loser who lost the C2. He's going to beat Moxley. Huh?
It is I mean, it's a very large conversation that we could have of like, because the C2 is about half the field of the G1, right? It's very difficult to compare them, but the G1 sort of works in that, everyone's going to lose matches. Even like the world champion is in the tournament and he's going to lose matches. So who loses to who means a little bit more. And there's also like twice as many matches. So if you lose a couple, that's not as big a deal as when there are like 5 of them and you lose 2. You know what I mean? And again, if the field is then smaller and you've got people who maybe aren't going to lose very many matches, and that means that for that to happen, the people at the lower end of the table have to lose almost all of their matches. And you get people like Mark Briscoe who probably aren't going to come out of this with more than 2 wins.
No.
It makes it a little bit more tough, to book a fully formed sort of tournament that way with people from other storylines that you should be heating up. And I think that, to me, is the key point that you had made where, like, Darby Allen, if he's going to be in this, he needs to go to a final.
Yeah.
Or a semifinal or something.
Yeah. Because Claudio is the only one from the storyline that they is made sense, because they've even been protecting him from the storyline aspect that he's not there doing the beatdowns because he's focusing on his match and so forth, and it makes sense. If the character of Moxley at the moment, he's saying in that mercenaries, you're gonna infect the C2, you're gonna make sure things stay the way that we want to make it stay, which is fine. But when you got guys like Darby Allen, because you've got people like Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland, and then you've got Hangman Page. There's so many guys you can make bigger cases for beating Death Rider than Darby Allen because of the way he's been treated. And then this is one of those times where Darby Allen should have a super push. It's one of those things where he should use his craftiness to get victories, and not like, again, he loses a lot. So when he beats Moxley, you'll be like, all right, Christian, where are you? You can't even enjoy that moment because it's kind of like the issue, like it doesn't let the storyline breathe. We can't even, oh my gosh, the monolithic Death Riders have been knocked down. Here comes Christian. He's now champion and he might lose it next week. It's like there's so many things going on, and I wish they would have focused on the Death Rider thing and Christian just fight Garcia for the TNT title or deal with the whole Hook storyline. There's so many things going on right now. It's a lack of focus. That's the main issue I have, is the lack of focus. This is meant to be your main feud, and they're doing a disservice to it, because I like what Moxley's doing. I like everyone involved, what they're doing. But it's just like you go from a hot angle and then it's kind of flatlining a bit.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll move on because we've talked about this at length. But Jon Moxley did announce that he is challenging the 4 baby faces, Hangman Page, Jay White, and Orange Cassidy, to a fatal 4-way match at World's End. Bandido got another vignette, and boy, this one was wacky and it was fun. I love this. Wrestling needs more wacky vignettes like this. Bandido rides into town on a horse. And this is like an old west. There's a saloon over here and all that. And there's a bunch of like bounty hunters or something being like, you're under arrest, you're coming in. And Bandido hops off his horse and he takes off his poncho and everything. And he looks ripped. He looks like 2024 Bandido 8, 2023 Bandido. And he's doing this and he's like, bring it. And they try and beat him down. He beats everybody's ass, and he hits a 21 plex on one of them, and I think that guy died. And yeah, Bandido's coming back soon. AEW's Most Wanted. I want to see this man. Like, I saw somebody say, it might have been Ibu. Shout out to Ibu. I talked to him yesterday. He was like, yeah, I always see someone sends me clips of like the WrestleTalk guys are just like, oh, Ibu said this, so it's probably me. What's good, bro? I think he said, I could be wrong, that Bandido should go through and like one by one try and fight the Don Callis family and do Bandido against Takeshita for the title at like Revolution or something.
That sounds lovely.
I want to see that match.
That sounds tasty.
I want to see Bandido get a storyline because he's excellent. Have him be an outlaw that's like going after the unjust or something like that. That'd be fun.
No offense to Hologram. Your mask is crap. You're a great
Give him
wrestler.
another look.
No. Hologram. No, I like Hologram. He's a great wrestler. I don't like his mask. I don't like his mask at all.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Give him another look. I thought you mean like don't
repackage him. No, like just fix the mask. It's got the most boring mask.
Yeah, and then you look at Bandido, one of the coolest masks ever, and a great worker, and a former PWG world champion, former ROH world champion, and another thing as well, maybe Ibu, someone else said it online, he should be the luchador that you strap up with a world title because he's that kind of caliber, that kind of level. He had a match with Jericho, which for a lot of people was his coming out party because they didn't really know his previous history on the indies.
Got him signed.
Yeah, that's what got him signed. Now with Phoenix on the sideline, in the tailspin or whatever, you got Hologram that's been positioned as the luchador. You know my feelings on Commando because I don't want to go into it, even though he seems to be improving, but I'm not going to go more into it. Bandido is the guy, okay? Because you got the Latin demographic, which is always a thing. You want to get more eyes on the product. The guy can work. He's got effortless physical charisma. His mask, if he can sign some sort of deal, you can get plenty of people wearing Bandido mask. I'll wear Bandido mask. Heck, I'll do it. I'll grow my hair out if I have to make it look good, you know? He's a guy that you should not fumble. He shouldn't be like, he's the myriad of masked wrestlers we have. No, he should be booked as an upper tier mid-card. He should be like a Darby Allen level, kind of like any moment he can believably win the title. So yeah, please do right by him.
Absolutely. Push Bandido to the moon. Christian, who was seen during the opening tag match in a skybox, and for some unexplained reason, in the middle of that match, he sent the rest of the patriarchy to get him a drink or something.
Give him a hot dog.
They leave, and after this opening match, he cuts a promo in the skybox, and he talks about how he's going to beat all these people. He's the undisputed next AEW World Champion. He says that he's going to break Mox's sobriety, send him back to rehab and all this. And then he's about to tell Kansas City to go F themselves, and he turns around, and through the window of the door of his skybox is Hook. And he sees him, and he's like, uh-oh. And Hook punches through the glass, opens the door, and beats Christian's ass, beats him down. He's got him in the red rum, and then he's about to, kill him, basically. He's going to throw him over the deal. But the patriarchy come in, and they beat him up, and Hook gets away. I think this is the best that Hook has looked in a segment since, like, the Samoa Joe match.
I agree, but I don't know what's going on with Christian. The early portions of the promo was quite rough. Every time he said shut up to people, it's because he was getting flustered. I don't know. It's like someone commented like he's been going through the motions. People saying, since the Adam Copeland injury, his heart hasn't really been in there because it's just kind of like you can tell when someone believes in their promo. And it kind of felt like AEW writer gave me this promo, and I'm going like towards the end when he started talking about Moxley, how he's going to dismantle him, send him to rehab. That's when the promo was getting good. But the beginning portions of it, I was kind of like, it's to the point where I was like, did we need this promo? This could have been a collision promo because sometimes I feel like promo on top of promos kind of derails the show a bit.
I kind of feel you, and like I am as big a fan of Christian Cage as you will find.
One of the biggest.
Unfortunately, I think the absence of Kill Switch has derailed a lot of the heat that's on here because like I don't think that anyone in the patriarchy is going to turn on Christian anytime soon, and even still, like the group works if Nick Wayne is one sniveling geek heel underling, but now the whole faction is sniveling geek heel underlings.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the one explanation segment that they had where Christian welcomed Kip Sabian into the group, but like I can't say that Kip Sabian being there has added anything to the group.
Yeah, that's just
so we've gone through the whole rigmarole with it, but I think we're in agreement. Then we had our match, which was Will Ospreay versus Claudio Castagnoli. Now, this was one, when they announced who was in which block, I circled on the calendar and I went, that match, that's going to be one to watch. I'm very excited, and I should have been. This match started off incredibly hot. Will Ospreay hit a Spanish fly and went for a near fall, like, within seconds of the bell ringing.
That's what it was. I'm making a joke because I was making notes, and all I can see is Ospreay and Claudio down. I was like, what was that? And I was like, this is me. I can't be able to rewind it. They're going to show me a replay, and they never showed a replay. That's
because they kept doing things. Because Ospreay hits this Spanish fly, and then he immediately, what did he do next? He hit a Spanish fly, and then he hit a Sasuke special, and then hit the Pip Pip Cheerio phenomenal forearm, and he went for the Os Cutter. But in the mid-air bit of the Os Cutter, Claudio hits an uppercut and just wipes him out. And I mean, we were 20 seconds in. I was like, 5 stars. Give him another one. Give me more work to do as I do this list before the end of the year. Pardon me. But this was obviously a very good match. They did a lot of like really fun cut-off spots where, again, it was Claudio just hitting uppercuts mid-move of any time Will was really trying to hit a big thing to get going. And then eventually Will would try again and did hit the Os Cutter, for example. Never hit the really big moves, though, because the Os Cutter is like 4 finishers ago for this guy.
Yeah.
Never hits the big moves, but eventually, I thought maybe they were going to go to one of their 20-minute draws in this tournament, but they didn't do that. Instead, Claudio was about to set up for the neutralizer, and Ospreay managed to hit like a jackknife rolling cover and lock the feet together and get the win. So Claudio takes his first loss in the tournament, but does it in the most protected way that they could. Will Ospreay is undefeated in his block, and that didn't sit well with Claudio, who attacked Ospreay after the match, and Darby Allen ran in to make the save, and Darby Allen and Will Ospreay are going to be wrestling next week. That is another one to circle on your calendar. That is going to be a very good match. This was just really solid.
A thing that I've been liking it in the C2 is when you get the rivals coming out saving for the other competitor, and it's like, oh, next week the guy you save, you're gonna be wrestling them. I was like, okay, I love the synergy there. The match was great. Again, the presentation of Claudio is probably the best I've seen on a big promotion.
Absolutely.
His Chikara stuff is legendary. CZW stuff is more known for his tag team stuff with Chris Hero, but in terms of him being a character and a singles wrestler, I feel like his Chikara stuff is probably showed him at his best as a brute heel and as a son of a you-know-what. But in AEW, something clicked. The moment that he suffocated Danielson with a plastic bag, Claudio Castagnoli is like, I'm just going to murder people in the ring. I'm going to lariat your head off. I'm just going to do Ricola bomb sometimes. I'm going to do the gotcha neutralizer sometimes. It's almost like he's tapping into an Austrian guy's bag of like, I'm just doing multiple things. I'm just going to grind you down and break you down into pieces. But yeah, Ospreay, I still love the presentation of his own version of the Punisher. I love the outfit. It's great. And it seems it might be going for a Fletcher Ospreay final, probably. I don't know.
It certainly looks that way.
Yeah. The match was good, but what I like about this match is, if it was on the pay-per-view, they've got more to show. So I feel like it was a taste of what to come. But even in the taster, it was phenomenal. 2 guys that can do they could do very great athletic stuff. They're hostile. So in a match, it was just very physical, and I really enjoyed the match. And then you got Darby Allen coming out, and I'm like, Darby should be, you know, them ones where they're heating up a wrestler to become a world champion. With Darby, it's just like another month for Darby, and I don't know. I want more for him.
Yeah. No, I agree. His focus seems very split. And we'll get through December, and hopefully things pick up a little bit. The only thing with Will is that I wish that we would have seen a little bit of like his response to getting beat by Kyle Fletcher, you know, like just a backstage deal or a sit down promo where he's like, I got to move on. I got to win this tournament. I got to adjust my focus.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to pretend that didn't hurt, that doesn't sting, that doesn't linger in the back of my mind. But I'm a competitor, and this is a very prestigious tournament that I need to win, and I'm going to press onward.
True.
Just something like that, like a 1-minute deal on a Dynamite show. The week after Full Gear, the week after that, maybe, I think would have helped tie a nice little ribbon on that then perhaps could have set up a potential final or semifinal match between the two as we get closer to the end here. So, you know, it's a bit of a nitpick, but
you're right.
It's just something that I think would help elevate, you know, his performance in this tournament even more.
The lack of POV.
As if he needs it.
Yeah, it's the lack of POV. And it's given very much Cena loses a big match, but he moves on.
Little bit.
That should be the nitpick, right? Cena would just lose and he come back smiling. Nothing changed by his demeanor, even though he has changed. But it's like, he got brain busted on that top rope. You'd think he got neck issues because that's the kind of thing that Will likes to do, you know, like selling a storyline after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no proof of the scarring besides the gear change. And but the only thing that has changed is the presentation and the aura that you see when you see Kyle Fletcher now.
Yeah.
That's what has changed.
That's it. Because I think, again, a little bit more like selling an impact to the neck and everything, and a promo afterwards, I think would not only have helped like Will's direction, but would have just put like even more on Kyle Fletcher and the biggest star that he can be to this point. Backstage, Ricochet cut a promo with Renee. Renee had it was like a cute little like suit and tie thing on. I appreciated her outfit on this week's show. Ricochet cut a promo saying that he holds all the cards against Brody King.
What did you think of the promo? I've yet to actually hear your actual opinion on that promo.
On the promo?
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
He's one of the nicer guys to talk about a promo, and this is Tempest we're talking about. This guy's not hold back, and he thought that promo was okay. So for a lot of people, they felt like this promo jumped off a cliff really quickly. He got asked a question, and he gave a bunch of different inflections, and then he did a woo, and he left.
That's who Ricochet is. Ricochet can't talk like a normal person in a promo. And I've accepted that, and I've moved on. I would prefer they didn't put a microphone in front of his face every week. But they do, so I just go, okay, here's what he said, and move on.
Then again, it's kind of like growing pains. You have to learn. I guess if they didn't put a microphone next to him, how's he meant to learn? I think it's one of them ones. It's a baptism by fire, and hopefully, the more promo time he gets, he finds his voice. I think the issue is he doesn't know what's his voice when he talks, when he does a promo. Because even Jeff Hardy was accused of not being the most eloquent promo guys, but he had the aura, he had the charisma, which covered for it. He doesn't have that for his promos, unfortunately. He could do a single line or a couple of lines, I don't know. But him potentially being the heel, it may change things, because he is Kenta when he went to New Japan, and then the fans were really loving it, and he ended up squatting Naito's face part of Bullet Club, and that changed things for him in New Japan. He is Kenta in New Japan. They're not really accepting the guy.
You know, that is a very apt comparison.
Thank you,
and
sir.
I had not thought of it.
Thank you, sir.
Shouts out to that. That's put this all in a different light for me.
I mean, we're friends for a reason. I think sometimes you get shot. I was like, dude, there's a reason why we get along. I may be sunny and I may like want to look at positive things, but there's things about graps that I am serious and I love about. I can be observant.
I love
my
your
ADHD,
perspective.
My ADHD kicks in sometimes and I go out of whack. I am. My ADHD, he'll tell you, I make up words sometimes when I'm reading things. Sat can read, I think. But yeah, I can be analytical and observant. Yeah, but yeah, he's Kenta New Japan hard. That match is what made me think that.
Yeah, absolutely, because we'll get to it. But Ricochet in this backstage deal had the Hurt business card, or the Hurt Syndicate business card. I'm trying not to call them the Hurt Syndicate, I'm trying not to call them the Hurt Business, but it hurts when they have a business card. That was eloquent.
No. You powered through it and you got there, and I love it because when you started, I was like, oh, I know he's going with this, and he did it. The punchline.
We got there.
It hurts.
MJF rolled up to the building, pulled out of his big SUV thing. I thought it was going to be Mercedes Moné, but it was MJF, and everyone popped big. I don't know if they thought they were going to see him on this show. So now every time MJF shows up, it's a surprise. So
I thought they'd cheer for his plump ass, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe that too.
Yeah.
Renee was backstage with Matt Cardona, and he literally almost word for word said exactly what he said on Rampage. I watched Rampage this week because it was a good show, so I went out of my way to see it, and it was good. But I didn't need to see Matt Cardona cut the exact same promo again. It was well delivered, but it was the same promo where he said, I'm always ready. He says so on the t-shirt. I've done all of this over the last 5 years to reinvent myself. I'm the indie guy. I'm a deathmatch king. I'm this and that. And you know what, Chris Jericho? You're not going to be ready when I walk into Final Battle and beat you for the ROH title. It's the biggest match of my career. I was like, I've heard it all. Whatever. He set up a match with Brian Keith for Rampage.
Before we move on swiftly, just a quick talk about Matt Cardona. Should he sign with AEW? Oh no, should he? Do they want? That's the issue with him. He's done a great job of revamping himself, and he works very hard. And he's seeing his misses doing very well. You know, them ones where he knows as much as doing great in indies, but even he knows, unless I revamp myself again. This stuff is getting old, right?
A little bit.
He's circled the wagon. He's even done DDT. I appreciate his run. I appreciate so much, and it hurts me internally because I know because he does interviews where he says, "No, I don't mind if I never go back." His body language and some of his tweets does say, "Hey, I've done all of this stuff. I've done my Cody run. Okay, when am I coming home? You have my wife." Them two together being obnoxious couple is money.
Yeah.
Triple H is allergic to goofy heels. We'll talk about some other time, Patreon maybe. Yes, but now that he's in AEW, I want him to keep ROH something because I want something for him. I want him to be rewarded for his hard work. He's always been a hard worker, dating back to Zack Ryder days. The guy works hard. The guy's reinvented himself. He got himself in great shape. He does everything well, cuts great promos. What more can he do for a main company to take him on?
Well, that's it. Like, I think if AEW signed Matt Cardona tomorrow, I wouldn't go on here and be like, pfft, why did they do that or anything? I think he is in a much better position now than when he had his 1 month run in AEW in 2020, at which point I was like, I never need to see this guy on AEW again. This is literally just, let's take Zack Ryder and put him on AEW TV. Same finish, nothing different. Now, everything is different, So shouts out to him. He's done a very good job of doing all of that. I do think that his peak of all of that was a little while ago, when he was getting all the trash thrown on him at GCW after beating Nick Gage and stuff like that, But that being said, I think the better place for him would be in WWE. He's got the history there. I think he has, where does he slot in AEW? He would probably just end up being Johnny TV after a little while, He'd find a goofball duo and end up in a little stable, and that'd probably be it. I don't see any, and I don't necessarily think he's going to be a main event guy in WWE either, but I would rather see him messing around with Chelsea Green being a goofball, duo there than seeing him on Rampage filling out the roster in AEW.
You know what? I am actually with you on that because AEW's got a lot of people. Him in the WWE mid-card scene would be great. But I know the way he wants it, he wants to be the guy. He wants to be champion. He wants at least the Miz main event run, if that makes sense.
Aim higher, boy.
No, but that is, because no offense, that's why he is, because no one would ever take him seriously as a badass. Even he calls himself Deathmatch King, his thing is he's way over his head. He's not as a badass as he thinks he is. He's almost like, he's like the Jeff Jarrett ilk and the Miz ilk, where when he becomes a badass, you have to fight with perception of him trying to be a badass.
I agree.
He works better as a sniveling heel. He does that really well. Him and Chelsea, money pairing, because they were pairing in GCW for a bit before she went back to WWE. I want him in WWE, have a better IC title run, which will probably solidify his run there.
Again, aim higher. Better than a one-day title run.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be hard to clear that. But
I think
he
wants to be Matt Cardona as well. I think that's what it is as well. I think maybe that's the holdback. He doesn't want to be Zack Ryder because Zack Ryder's got too much stench on it. You know, Mojo pissed all over that currency towards the end. But yeah, that's a little bit of Mark Cardona. Again, Patreon maybe. You hear Sat and Tempest rant more.
We'll get there. Then we had the final, like the part 2 of the Dynamite Diamond Dozen match. The name for that match is too long. It's Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly. The winner faces MJF for the ring at World's End. And immediately, like, Adam Cole didn't seem like he wanted to do this match. He felt very conflicted in all of this.
I blame NXT.
Yeah, I blame NXT too. And Kyle O'Reilly is still pissy about it all. He does like a backstage deal. They interview him right before he's going to go out, and the Kingdom show up, and they're like, hey, man, whatever happens, you're our bro. And he's just like, oh, if that was true, you wouldn't have let what happened to Roddy happen. It's like, Roddy is a grown man who got beat in a match.
Sorry, Kyle, you've been a prick. All right?
Like,
you've been a full-blown prick. He's been a prick.
I don't want to have a rant about this every single week.
But he's been a prick.
But yeah, everyone in this...
They'll be nice, and he'd be a prick. And the guy that turned on him, that's the most annoying thing. Roddy attacked you, okay? He's the one you should be mad at. Adam Cole was around when you got attacked, and yet you've been pissed with everyone else over a guy that attacked you, the guy you had a match with for the title, and you didn't win, and you cut your hair. He hasn't been the same. And then before we go into it, I have to preface this. Humble Wrestling on Twitter, very big account. He said the match that you're about to talk about killed NXT Black and Gold. And I laughed so hard because it did. After that feud, people were done with 40-minute matches. They were done with, look at my hands acting. But yeah.
Yeah. I saw somebody say at one point that Adam Cole's big matches are what if you took the I'm sorry, I love you line from Shawn and Ric Flair and just turn it into an entire match. And I've never quite looked at his big matches the same again, you know?
Especially with his mates, especially with the MJF stuff and everything. Yeah, I see it. But yeah, their feud killed NXT Black and Gold. There's another universe where Kyle O'Reilly did become NXT champion because that's where he was positioned to be.
Always thought he was the one that was going to beat Karrion Kross.
It was. Again, Patreon, one day
we'll talk about NXT. But this match was fine, generally speaking. The people were into it. There was dueling chants back and forth. So, shouts out to that. That was, probably the most heat that they've had for this feud, which I still do not care for or understand.
Same.
They did a lot of look how well we know each other. I'm going to go for a super kick, and you're going to move out of the way because you see it coming. I'm going to go for a knee strike or something, and I'm going to do the same thing. Adam Cole rolls to the outside, and that was a large part of the early goings of this match. And just Adam Cole looking like, I really don't want to fight my friend, even though I do it every other year in every promotion we've ever been in. But we go on, and they have a good match. They go back and forth with, kicks and strikes and knees and heel hooks from Kyle O'Reilly and all of these different bits. Solid stuff. I didn't dislike watching this match. As far as these two go, I've seen them have better. I've seen them have worse. Future Shock and all that, right? But we get towards the end of this match, and MJF emerges, and MJF tries to hit Adam Cole with the ring, but Adam Cole ducks, and then Adam Cole hits a super kick on MJF and rolls up Kyle O'Reilly for the win. So Adam Cole will face MJF at World's End. Thank God, because I thought there was every chance that Adam Cole gets hit with the ring, Kyle gets the win, has the match at World's End, and then we have to wait till Revolution for the Adam Cole MJF match, and I simply would not have allowed it to happen.
Strike.
I'm not doing. Yeah, I'd go on strike for this stupid feud.
No.
But MJF and Adam Cole yell at each other. Adam Cole is stood on the top rope or in the turnbuckle and everything, and MJF is in the galleyway, and he's yelling at him. And then Kyle O'Reilly is pissy, and Adam Cole offers him a handshake, and Kyle O'Reilly just rolls out of the ring, and he's mad. And we talk. I don't have anything new to say. I don't want to bore the listeners, but what's your problem, bro?
That's your ex-wife.
You have a wife.
You have a family.
Go home to your kids.
Yeah.
Go help Orange Cassidy in the deal that actually involves you.
I've never seen something so convoluted. I'm almost offended how convoluted it is.
It's like an experiment as to how many weird twists and turns can we layer onto this storyline before it literally ceases to exist.
And what I hate is when Kyle cuts a promo, he's very nice and polite. I was like, huh? That doesn't match the energy you give off. Well, I care about you, but people care about you too, and you're a leader. But that doesn't display how you're acting. You're acting like you pissed on your cereal.
Yeah, I don't get it. FTR promoted Fight for the Fallen. I thought this was like a really nice section of the show. Shouts out to AEW for doing this show. For anybody unaware, Fight for the Fallen is going to be the first show in January, the first Dynamite show. It's going to be simulcast on HBO or Max, whatever, and TBS. And it's going to be, you know, their big charity driver for the people of Asheville, North Carolina, who were hit with the hurricane some months ago. And this has very much been a cause that FTR and Adam Copeland have been heavily involved in, as they all live in the area. And I think that is all just very nice. That is good stuff. Thumbs up for good human beings doing good human things. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that Adam Copeland returns on that show. That would put me in a very good mood to start 2025. So fingers crossed, but FTR also called out the Death Riders. So maybe you get the Death Riders against FTR and Adam Copeland for the trios titles at the start of next year?
That sounds very nice.
I just thought of that off the top of my head.
That's great.
You know?
The top of your head done well. Thank you, top of the head.
Give it a pat.
You are splendid.
Thank you very much. Chris Jericho did his New York Minute, and basically they cut a little promo for the sake of Brian Keith facing Matt Cardona. It was fine. Darby Allen did a sit-down interview with Tony Schiavone and proceeded to punch himself in the face.
Who does he think he is, Mick Foley? Mick Foley once did that when he did a promo and he punched himself in the cheek and his cheek was puffing and swelling up.
Yeah, Ric Flair would always do that. He'd rip his stitches out of his head and tap on his paper skin and just like be bleeding. Yeah, Darby did that. He was just like, this doesn't mean anything to me. Punches himself in the mouth and he's like, look at the blood. I don't care. And I was like, Jesus Christ, bro. Like, I know that you're Darby Allen, but take care of yourself. He said that doesn't bother him, but people lying to themselves do. And Jon Moxley keeps lying to himself about the state of AEW, and he's going to prove him wrong. It's like, I'm sure you will, bro. I hope we can get there soon.
Because you're the only one now. That's what makes it sad.
He's the only one who cares about that bit.
Yeah.
Everyone just wants the belt or wants to be world champion, or I guess Orange Cassidy probably cares a little bit. But we've not heard from him recently.
No.
You know, he's got to avenge his loss and all of that. But like, yeah, Darby Allen's the only one carrying the torch for AEW at this stage.
And they were like, give it up, bro. That's last month's storyline.
Yeah. But then we had our next Continental Classic matches. Ricochet and Brody King went one-on-one. Now, this was a very interesting match to me, and I look at it through a slightly new perspective, thanks to you and your insight here, because this was the Brody King show for like 80% of this match, maybe more. Where they started, and Brody King was just no-selling all of Ricochet's offense. He was beating him down. He was getting a huge pop. He was doing the bark and everything, and people were doing it back to him. And he was wiping him out with his crossbody into the dasher board thing. And this was just the Brody King show. Ricochet manages to mount like a slight comeback, and he hits a shooting star press, but Brody just like Kane or something, grabs him by the throat as he's selling the shooting star press, gets back to his feet, locks in the choke, and I'm like, wow, this is going to be a dominant win. Little did I know. But Ricochet goes over to the corner and rips the top turnbuckle off, manages to ram Brody King's head into the turnbuckle twice, and then wipe him out with 2 spirit guns. And gets the win. And the people were not into this. Now, he is perhaps aligning with the Hurt Syndicate. That, I think, to be the most interesting direction he has gone since arriving in AEW. I will give him that. He did some heelish things here. He cheated to win against Brody King. Boo. Boo you, sir. I like Brody King and want to see him win matches instead. That being said, this is all real interesting, wasn't it? Because, like, you know, the problem with, like, because this is why I think the comparison with Kenta is actually very, very apt. Do you know what the problem was with Kenta when he arrived in New Japan? It wasn't just that he was never a New Japan guy. It's that he was a bit shit.
Yeah, he wasn't wrestling like the Kenta of old.
You know?
Yeah.
Like he was just a bit bad. He
to-
had good matches because he was in the G1 with really good guys, but it was like he was everybody's like sixth best match of the tournament. And by the end, joining Bullet Club and turning on Shibata and all of that was a very good move and helped him out a lot in hindsight. Like it gave him a run in New Japan.
One of the best promo guys, man. Every time he does a backstage stuff. Anyway, yes.
He's fantastic. Ricochet as well. Obviously, he's had like objectively good matches.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go out there and say that he is a bad wrestler.
He's not.
But I just think that Ricochet has been a bit shit. You know? Like, and maybe this is a larger conversation we need to have about it, but if you remove any match that had Will Ospreay in it, you're not left with a stellar body of work here. I think the Takeshita match was massively disappointing. Said it at the time. And I guess Ricochet's going for this, like, I'm going to prove everybody wrong.
Yeah.
You know, kind of approach of like, no, I can wrestle as well as everybody else and I'm going to show them why I'm the best. But, bro, you're the best at being the flippy guy. And there are other flippy guys here that are better at being the all-around wrestler than you. So you need to lean into the flippy guy thing or this isn't going to work. And it's not been working particularly well. Like, I had given him a lot of credit and they were really pushing him as a top star through the first couple months there. Like when he pins Takeshita in the lead into the Full Gear match, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense because you know what? Here, Ricochet is a star and they're going to portray him as a star. So he's going to get the big matches. He's going to go out there with Takeshita and have like a 5.5-star match. It's going to be fantastic. He can get beat in that match if you have a great showing, and him beating the champion in an 8-man tag or whatever makes sense. I am happy with that. And then that match just never was that great.
No, never.
You know,
second gear.
I will never watch that match again, likely. Like, unless I'm sat down watching Full Gear in Full Gear, I won't watch that match again. Not because I hated it, but because there are many better matches to have. And if your gimmick is going to be good match haver, you got to do better than that. So, if his character is going to be changing in the near future, and we're going to see a pivot and into a more aggressive, heelish style, aligning with the Hurt Syndicate perhaps, that gives me more hope than anything that I've seen thus far. But I think the boos that were raining down on him were very telling when he's put against a guy who has gotten over very organically. Brody King is very popular at this stage.
He is.
With very little push.
No.
Like he's gotten wins here and there. Like he had a few good weeks, you know, in the FTR and House of Black match and then beating Darby Allen, you know, at the beginning of the C2. But that's sort of been it. Like he lost to Claudio and he lost again here. So it's kind of been a bit stop-start. But people are really into Brody King. So it just kind of reflects that much more on Ricochet, who should be the easiest guy to cheer and get into, given how flashy and exciting his offense is. But it's just not happening.
Because he's displaying Charlotte Waltman 2000s level of apathy.
Yeah.
He should lean into that. Because if he's turning heel, because people say he's being a heel, his movesets. Listen, Sean Waltman had flashy movesets, but people hate him because he was a prick. So Ricochet just needs to be a prick. Because he's, even on social media, he's had social media, again, we're talking about the wrestling show, but there's been meltdowns on social media, there's been criticism, and I think he has a chip on his shoulder. And it kind of like the Hangman storyline, the chip hasn't really helped him in terms of as a baby face. If he leans in more as a heel, Samantha Irvin coming in as his mouthpiece is kind of like there. She said she wanted to be a manager. I'm like, there's a guy that needs someone to talk for him. You guys are match made in heaven. You guys are engaged. Talk for him. We need a new Brandy Rhodes type person that people start hating on for some weird reason. But yeah, she can come in and be his mouthpiece in the Hurt Syndicate, because then he said business to Hurt Syndicate, and it might work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
But
never know.
he's very much Kenta. Kenta was getting booed, man. His performance was not Not up there.
Yeah,
For
man.
a lot.
And yeah, the last few things that we have to talk about here are that Lio Rush and Action Andretti interrupted Private Party's little meeting in their backstage corner next to a garage door.
Lol.
And they said they wanted a shot at the title. They both have their big Bowser jackets with the spikes and everything that I think looked fun. And they were interrupted by Top Flight, and they bickered a little bit. And then, yeah, I'm sure they'll have a collision match that'll lead to a tag title match on a collision.
I'm out of context. I haven't been watching the other shows. Sorry, blasphemy. Anyway, have they officially split up now? Because it makes sense. There's 4 in a group.
They eliminated them from the Battle Royal last week. I think that's been about it.
Because on social media, the look that you described, I saw it on social media. Because Lio Rush goes, "What should this tag team be called?" And I wanted to tweet him. Can someone tell him my idea is FYI? Someone tweet him that. Yeah, that makes more sense. There's 4 in a group. I get it. Like these 2 guys that splintered off from Top Flight, they were the original reserve tag partners when the others were injured. And all of a sudden, Tony Khan goes, "What if you guys all became a team, right?" It's like all your exes become. Let's have a polyamorous relationship in this group. And Layla just there, just make sure you guys don't get into any trouble. But yeah, it makes sense. There's 4 in a group. Top Flight is not a group, it's a tag team. Let the brothers be your brothers. Action Andretti, Lio Rush being there is giving him a lifeline because I don't see any, no offense to him, but I don't see him reaching the tippy heights as a singles wrestler because again, there's so many high flyers. Maybe if you go to WWE, you might do fine, I don't know. But there's so many high flyers that he's like on the bottom rung, I'm sorry. But this tag team with Lio Rush might actually show hidden charisma I may not know about, besides crushing a bottle into your mouth, which was a thing for a bit. But yeah, Lio Rush and him as a tag team, I'm all for it because we need more tag teams in the tag team division. You couldn't get Moxley Machine Guns, but these 2 guys, they got potential. So yeah, let's do it.
I agree. And I mean, I kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but I am thoroughly disappointed in what has been the run of Private Party thus far. I'm not exactly shocked. As soon as I saw that 4-way for Full Gear set up, I was like, well, they don't have confidence in these guys. And I watched that match, and I was like, boy, I was right, but I didn't think I was going to be that right. And here we are, and they're barely on TV. They're in a backstage segment. That's it. Like, this is how we have another run of the Acclaimed into the Ass Boys where no one gives a damn. So hopefully it changes, but fingers crossed. And then Mercedes Moné and Anna Jay had a backstage deal where they both said they were going to win their TBS title match next week. And that was the show, as all that was left was the main event, which we have already spoken about. With that being said, this will be the last time you see the 2 of us together on this show this year because I am going back to Canada this Sunday. So for everybody out there in WrestleTalk Podcast land, thank you so much for your support through 2024. We will see you again in 2025. I hope each and every one of you has a fabulous holiday season, a wonderful new year, and I hope you all leave us a comment down below letting us know what you thought of Toni Storm and Winter is Coming. Sat,
Yes.
it has been a pleasure as always this year.
Thank you to everyone that brought back Saturday Days in the House of the Black Mask. Your support is the reason why I am back here doing this stuff. But I will be off for the month of January. I'm on paternity leave, and I'll be back in February, hopefully. But yes, all love to you guys. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Ta-ta, Kwanzaa, all that good stuff. Au revoir.
Au revoir.